Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Welcome, everybody, to a very special Scare Guy Show, Home Edition. This is the place for insider opinions and news on horror conventions, scary things, horror movies, anything that's kind of scary fun, including Halloween. And today is halfway to Halloween, so we're having a halfway to Halloween celebration. Normally, we would have a halfway to Halloween party, but with everybody inside tonight, just join us right here. We're going to have the party right here on the Scare Guy Show. And this week, we are celebrating halfway to Halloween with one of my favorite horror enthusiasts, one of the coolest guys I've ever met, Anthony Masi. He makes documentaries, holds horror events, and produces super cool week-long virtual events celebrating my favorite horror franchise, Halloween. I'll let him tell you about that in just a minute. We'll talk Halloween, Haddonfield, what's up with Michael Myers, and everything else under the full moon tonight. Who do we have with us tonight? Katie, please introduce yourself.
I'm Katie, aka since we're the Scare Guy, the final girl of the Scare Guy. And yeah, excited to get in the Halloween spirit since it's already a little spooky right now. So.
I know, we are trying to save Halloween. Ben, introduce yourself, please.
Hey, everybody. My name is Ben Kliewer, and as you can already tell, my call's coming from inside the house.
All right, Cheeseman.
And I'm Cheeseman in the chair, not on the couch right now, but I am here with the scareguy.com.
All right, and in the booth, trying to keep us all straight, Ryan.
Yes, it's a really scary time for all of us, and we're halfway to Halloween. October 31st. Can't wait.
All right.
Psyched to be on the show.
I was like, yes, that is the correct date for Halloween. Good job, Ryan.
I was trying to do the math. I was like, is it actually halfway? Is that yes, it's halfway.
As close as we can get, really.
Exactly.
All right, and in the house with us, well, actually not in the house with us tonight, in his house with us collectively here, celebrating halfway to Halloween tonight. And golly! The pumpkin started screaming.
Did we get a live Scare Jim moment?
How is this even happening? Anthony Masi, please
That was
introduce yourself
so
before I have a heart
iconic.
attack.
You can't see me not take
I
opportunities to
love it.
scare Jim.
Wait, guys. No, Anthony, we got a special guest tonight, Anthony Masi.
Yes, I'm Anthony Masi. I'm loving the concept of this show about halfway to Halloween because it seems like every year Halloween fans, they stretch out the season from like October, now it's September, it goes into August. I mean, this is ridiculous, but I love it. I'm glad to be here. And these are my awesome They Live glasses.
I love those.
Anthony, but I got to say, let's talk about something that's ridiculous, stretching out Halloween all year. In just a minute, we're going to hear about what is it that happened with you last week?
What happened with me last week?
In relation to Halloween.
Well, what happened to me last week? What are you talking about?
Oh, wait. Didn't you like feature like 5 nights of special behind the scenes?
Yes, okay. I've been drinking.
I was like, wait, we booked the wrong guest.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we did something called Dr. Dementia's week-long slash-a-thon.
Yeah.
And he was at the lostriverdrivein.com website, and it was 5 nights of just free, super rare Halloween footage. We're all kind of trapped at home, at least most of us are, and so I was like, what can I do to like entertain people? So I went and found all my old VHS tapes where we had, I'm talking like from the mid-90s on, maybe early, and I found super rare footage. I found footage of Jamie Lee Curtis before Halloween. She was on a game show called the $20,000 Pyramid. Have you heard of that game show?
Yes.
She was a contestant, and she's on the show, and then the host says, what was the movie that you worked on? And she goes, Halloween. And he's like, what, do you play a witch or something? And she's like, no. And she was like miming with a knife. He goes, what's it about? And she's like, I play a high school student who gets attacked by this weird guy. And she's like slashing with her hand. And I'm like, this was before Halloween. And so it's not like groundbreaking footage, but it's rare. And so what I did was I cut these 5 episodes, and we made them live 5 o'clock every night Pacific time, and thousands of people tuned in to watch it. and it was a lot of fun. It was really a lot of just covered a lot of really cool, super rare stuff.
That's really cool. And for people who've been watching the podcast for a bit, you'll recognize Lost River Drive-In. For one, if you're a true fan of the Halloween movies, besides Anthony, does anybody on any of the hosts know what Lost River Drive-In is?
I believe I do. I actually seem to remember talking about it on one of our past shows, and it got me so interested in. First of all, I remember just hearing Anthony talk about the movie Halloween, and like it's always refreshing to hear someone talk so passionately about a movie they love. And I watched it that season because I watched probably like once or twice a year, and just with a whole newfound excitement to the viewing experience. Especially with just John Carpenter, I kind of like really dove into his filmography this year. But yeah, the drive-in, I've heard so much about that from you guys, and I really wanted to go this past year.
Yeah, Lost River Drive-In is the drive-in that was mentioned in Halloween 2. That's where somebody said they saw Michael Myers walking out behind.
One of the characters says, her friend Julie, she goes, my friend Julie saw Michael walking out behind the Lost River Drive-In, in that field behind the Lost River Drive-In. So that's just kind of where it comes from. But to speak about Halloween, and like the love for it and revisiting it, I'm actually hosting tomorrow night a black and white version of Halloween that, I don't know if you know who Kim Gottlieb Walker is. Kim, oh yes, the popcorn box. Right here, yes. Over here. Yeah. So cool. You're such a horror nerd. So tomorrow night, so Kim Gottlieb Walker was the on-set photographer for a bunch of John Carpenter's movies. And she has taken some amazing photos. The only on-set backstage, like behind-the-scenes photos available for Halloween are from her. And that's it. That's the book.
Yes.
Right there. And she released a book called On Set with John Carpenter. And it's an incredible book. You got to get this book. Amazing. And she not only took great photos, they're just so well composed. And the thing is, though, they're black and white. All the photos are black and white. So every time I see those photos, I think I would love to see Halloween in black and white. Like, what would that be like? Do you guys remember a movie called The Mist?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, they did a black and white version of that. They had a color version and a black and white version. And so I just, created a black and white version. We've got like 40 or 50 people that are going to do a Zoom thing tomorrow night. PJ Souls wants to attend, so that'll be really cool.
Wow.
It's just going to be a black and white version. I mean, that's the kind of, I love Halloween. I could talk about it forever. So yeah, you got just 2 pages in the book.
You and Jim could have your own show.
Let me show you real quick. I'm going to take the cover off so I don't get it messed up. But me and Luke, we went with some friends out to an art show out in Pasadena at Sugar Mint Gallery. And that's where I met Miss Kim Gottlieb Walker. I don't know if you guys can see that at all, but that's Jamie Lee Curtis right there on the front stoop, that famous spot, which most of us Halloween fans have been there many times, gotten to know the owners of the house. They're so great. But that's where we met Kim. Luke was dressed up like the Shape, which was really cool. But so I bought the book. I think I first. How does that even work? So I think that's the first time I met Kim. But then at Midsummer Screen, I went and bought the book from her, and she wrote it, and she remembered me. She goes, so she signed it for Jim, the world's greatest Halloween fan. Beware the Shape, but enjoy the book. I love it. She's so great.
She's awesome. She's so sweet. I mean, I only met her like once, but yeah, I mean, it's great that she put that book together because she really takes you through all of his movies, and she's such a great photographer, and she captured the feeling of making that movie. And there's something about the stills being in black and white. It just makes it feel like a classic,
Yeah. It's really fantastic. So we are going to move on a little bit. We're going to come back, and for the second half of the show, we're going to find all about the world of Anthony Masi and his opinions on how Halloween's going to be shaping up this year, which is a very interesting topic. But first, Ben. I think Ben has the 3 scariest minutes in news for us.
I do.
All right.
I was going to make a couple of edits to this, but I got caught up this afternoon with a home taped audition and stuff. So I have not really looked at this. I've looked at it a little bit, but I'll make some edits on the fly, and we'll try to get it done in less than 3 minutes.
Also known as Chippendales is what you're doing, right?
Chippendales, yes. It was my side hustle. So,
I got your 3 minutes all queued up here, Ben.
all right.
So I'm going to count you down, man. We're going to go
Let's do
in
it.
3, 2, 1, go.
It's the scariest 3 minutes of the week in horror news. Friday the 13th's 40th anniversary Blu-ray release. Has it really been 40 years since Mrs. Voorhees first terrorized us with her murderous rampage at Camp Crystal Lake, a precursor to the legendary terror fest of her son Jason? It wasn't Jason in the first movie, guys, remember.
Right.
Paramount celebrates this horrific milestone by releasing a limited edition steelbook Blu-ray and digital version of the film loaded with extras. The release has been bumped back to June 16th, 2020 from the original date of May 5th. Paramount added that this special edition will allow fans to, quote, plunge deeper into the film with bonus content, interviews with the cast and crew, and behind-the-scenes features. We here at Scare Guy have a special Friday the 13th 40th anniversary celebration coming up soon to celebrate the bloody birthday of the classic slasher franchise.
Woohoo!
HBO has made a deal to develop a series from the classic horror franchise Hellraiser with
2
Halloween
minutes.
Helmer David Gordon Green set to direct the pilot and several more initial episodes that bring to the small screen for the first time Pinhead, the iconic pincushion-domed villain who heads a group of pasty-faced villains sent from hell known as Cenobites. The idea is to create an elevated continuation and expansion of the well-established Hellraiser mythology. It is by no means a remake, but rather assumes the past mythology to be a given. The Haunting of Bly Manor, the second season follow-up to The Haunting of Hill House horror anthology on Netflix, wrapped production before the COVID-19 crisis hit and is waiting for a release date. Series creator/director Mike Flanagan, also known for his work in the Stephen King-inspired film Dr. Sleep, recently wrote on social media that the next season is on schedule, and we wrapped before the shutdown, and post-production has carried on from home. The Haunting of Bly Manor, the second installment of this popular horror anthology, that seems a bit redundant, is based on The Turn of the Screw, the famed gothic horror novella by Henry James. Flanagan added that the upcoming season will also feature
1
adaptations of several of James' other horror tales. Scott Teems, who wrote the screenplay along with director David Gordon Green of Halloween Kills, and Dan McBride, spoke to MovieWeb about the sequel and dropped a few hints that fans of the franchise can hang their hats on. Quote, I really can't say anything about the sequel, he said, but I am really excited about it. I saw a rough cut of it a few weeks ago and I'm a little biased, but my gut says that people who like the last one will be very excited about this one. It's like the first one on
30
steroids.
seconds, man.
It's really the bigger, badder, meaner version of the first one. Halloween Kills is headed for an October 16th release, provided the COVID-19 pandemic is no longer a health threat. 15 seconds left.
He killed it. He killed it.
Well done.
Also, in connection to the Halloween franchise, sunglasses. Are you doing a music cue or?
No, I was doing They Live because you successfully did it. You successfully completed the news.
I was going to say I can repost. I posted on my Instagram a year or two ago, but I can repost my Choose Your Own Adventure Halloween flowchart on my Instagram page because the entire Halloween franchise starts with Halloween, but then immediately following that, there's several different paths you can take for which storyline you want to follow.
Fantastic. And I don't think it's I can tell this. It's not a big secret. Like, so myself and Luke were actually we're talking with Scott Teems this week, the co-writer of Halloween Kills, and there was a 50-50 chance he was going to be with us on the show tonight, but he had to regretfully decline. He does not feel it is yet time for him to start discussing the movie. He doesn't feel like he's the one. It's going to come from the directors. And Scott Teems is a very, very humble person. He's such a good guy, and he does good stuff. He has another film that just came out this past weekend. If you want to look him up and find his film and support that, I suggest you do, because I'm forgetting the name of his film right now. Oh, I got it. Anyways, Katie. Wait. First of all. Hey, Anthony, did you hear what they said about the Halloween Kills film?
No, what?
Oh, I mean, you know what Scott Meeks said, how he thinks it's like the first film, but on steroids and extra mean and extra. a lot more ferocious and bigger. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. I'm trying to avoid news for it because I really just want to go to it and see it. But on social you can't really avoid everything. So I've seen a couple things. I'm really excited about it because I thought the last movie was good. But I really think this one's going to be amazing. I think with the whole cast coming back, and
I know, I love it.
Yeah, I think it's just gonna be bigger and badder, and they're doing flashbacks to the original movie, which that's what drove me crazy. I was like, oh, if they can do that right, because in the last movie, they don't show the Myers house. It's a little like lacking in terms of Haddonfield feeling to me.
Yeah, they were going to do that originally, but then they cut the scene out of the beginning. They were going to start back, with the original film, but due to kind of budget and different things, they had to cut it. But that's cool that they're now taking that to this film. Yeah, not that thing, but it might be kind of different. And the film by Scott Teems was called The Quarry, Jim.
All right. Thank you. All right, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But first of all, our very own final girl, Katie, is going to give us an update on horror conventions and whatnot that's been happening. Katie.
Yeah, so I was looking we kind of compiled a list of mostly film festivals, but also other horror events that may have already had to be rescheduled due to COVID-19. Thankfully for the Halloween season, not a lot has been postponed or canceled yet, but with it an ongoing day-to-day situation, we'll keep you posted on if more happens. So first on this list is TerrorCon. This was supposed to happen from June 13th through 16th, so it is not too far away. It was canceled. That's in Rhode Island. And then June 19th through 21st, shortly after that, Monster Mash, which has moved from June, has been moved to June. It says June 19th to 21st. I think that's a typo, Jim, but I'm guessing you mean like it's been moved later on from that date. So, no worries.
It is on June 19th to 21 right now. It was earlier.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Okay, sorry about that, y'all. Anyway, so New Jersey Horror Con and Film Festival was in June, but is now going to be in September 25th through 27th in Showboat, Atlantic City, which is where a lot of events are moving to, like late August, September. And every single one of the Day of the Dead conventions beginning in July are still scheduled to proceed as plans as of today, which is April 30th. We'll let you know if anything changes. Stay tuned to Instagram and Twitter. We'll let you know. Midsummer Scream, which you guys know is a big celebration in Southern California about all things. It is still planning to move forward, and it's July 31st through August 2nd. So that's a big one that we all try to go to every year. And then there is the Overlook Film Festival, which is an annual horror fest. It's been scheduled for May 28th through 31 in New Orleans. It has been postponed. I wasn't able to find the date on that, but it has been postponed because it was supposed to be at the end of this month. And then Shriek Fest in LA is still scheduled on October 1st through 4th, and in Orlando on November 7th. And they are having if you go to the website or you type in Shriek Fest on the computer, you'll be able to find it out. But it says, show us your Shriek Fest commercial. Got an imaginative spirit and a hankering for horror films. I mean, all of us. Then we want you to help promote Shriek Fest, the longest running horror, sci-fi, and fantasy film and screenwriting competition in LA. So you can go to their website and they'll give you all the information on how to enter that contest, which I think is a pretty cool thing that could help people right now, because I'm sure we can make some horror stuff in our own homes. I mean, there's the supplies to do it. I mean, Luke's done it twice already today. So yeah, and then for more information, go on their website. And Houston Horror Film Festival, September 4th through 6th. That's the new dates for that one. So yeah, and that's about it. Oh, and Halloween Horror Nights has not been canceled yet. They haven't made any announcements about that not happening. So I know that's what a lot of people are worried about, because we all go to Horror Nights and everybody, that's the big one. As of now, it is still going ahead. They haven't made any other announcements for it, but we'll see if they might be postponing the announcements until the more is known. So yeah, but that's that for the week. So
thank you, Katie.
Welcome.
So quit. So here's
That's hilarious.
Gonna stop being funny? I don't think so.
Favorite thing to ever happen.
This is a
We have
real
to take
night.
a drink.
Don't
We have to
steal
take a drink every
whatever
time it
live.
happens.
Take a drink every time that happens.
Anyways, For those of you who are wondering, yes, this is a real pumpkin. No, these are not. Those are too pretty. But this is a real pumpkin. This past October, I headed up into a little bit north of Los Angeles, north of Santa Barbara, and we picked up like a bunch of pumpkins and stuff. And I kept some just specifically for halfway to Halloween because it's a new tradition I've been doing every year is to keep the pumpkins for halfway to Halloween. And I must say, it is time to. Gosh, I've never carved one this big before. So as I start carving this pumpkin, we're going to start talking to Anthony because this might take me a couple of days to get done. Hey, Anthony, we first started talking about it, but I would love to know a little bit more about Lost River Drive-In, like the brand and like how that came about and kind of like stuff that you guys have done. We talked a little bit for people who are watching this. Last October, one of the coolest events I've ever been to was going to the Lost River Drive-In, actual drive-in to see how oh, I thought it was the pumpkin the whole time. It's this thing. But so like what we did is we went to the Lost River Drive-In out at it's the Mission Tiki Drive-In Theaters for a special showing of Halloween 2, which was fantastic. Or was it Halloween 1 and 2?
Yeah, it was 1 and 2 because Halloween 2 is the movie where they mentioned Lost River Drive-In. And so we just did both movies. And the drive-in actually rebranded itself as the Lost River. So they allowed everyone to put t-shirts on that said Lost River Drive-In, the popcorn box that you had. We had a newspaper out there that said Haddonfield Time. So it was as though you were in the movie Halloween, you were going to the Lost River Drive-In. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And we are planning a brand new event for this year, but because of what's happened, you know, it's up in the air. I guess I can tell you guys what it is. It's the 60th anniversary of Psycho this year.
Whoa!
Yeah, I know. It's gone by pretty
60?
fast.
60 years, no way.
60 years?
Yeah, and I remember I did the Psycho Legacy documentary on the series, and that was the 50th anniversary, and I can't believe it's been 10 years since that DVD came out. I'm like, holy shit, it's been 60 years, you know, already. So, you know where the Psycho house is? It's over at Universal, and it's gorgeous, and it's been sitting there, and the hotel is there, and so we thought it would be really cool to watch Psycho and Psycho 2 right next to the, you know, the hotel, right in front of the house. And we're talking to Universal about it, and we put a formal pitch together, and so, but all those talks kind of disappeared a little bit, or were put on hold when this thing happened. But it was, Katie, when you were mentioning Halloween Horror Nights,
Yeah.
it's good to know that they haven't said anything yet because we wanted to do our event right before they did that, because we obviously, I think there's a tour that walks by the house during Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah, it was.
So, yeah.
It was closed last year for multiple reasons, but they didn't have the terror tram last year where you walk past the hotel. So I am hoping it's back this year. We haven't really heard anything about whether or not it's going to be back this year. But yeah, but usually yes, usually.
So what we wanted to do was time it right before that started, so that we could have the house, and you know, and they I don't think they've done anything like that before. I mean, it's an odd location, and people are admitted into the park. We're trying to figure out how to get people into the park just for that event, and then leave and you know, make sure everything runs smoothly. And so that was the next. I mean, it's not a drive-in. You know, the Lost River Drive-In is turning into like a more of a name than an actual drive-in. But we do events with really cool gifts. We're going to create some amazing swag. That's the thing. You come to a Lost River Drive-In event and you see, you know, it's an immersive kind of experience. So we thought, oh, it's 60 years, you know, it's a great PR opportunity for the studio. Why not? I mean, the house is there. I mean, it's not a real house, but it's gorgeous, and you know, what fun, you know. So that's what was our next event.
That is probably one of the coolest events I have ever heard of. Of course, this past Halloween, 2019, I could also say you had one of the coolest events I think I've ever heard of. Can you remind us of that one?
Scream-a-ween? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Okay. So again, all right. I think I mentioned this last time, but a couple years ago, I did an event called Scream Comes Home, which was a big party at the house where they filmed the movie Scream. So the homeowner, we got him to agree to do a Halloween party at the house, at the same house, and we called it Scream-a-ween. And it was a much smaller event. It was just literally people the idea was to have like a Halloween party in costume. It was definitely a costume party, lots of alcohol, and just playing, Birds, what was it, Youth of America by Bird Brain, and like blast that song throughout the house all night long. Well, what happened
for the youth of America.
It's the best song. And when you walk up to the house and you hear
so
that
cool.
song coming out, it's like, oh my God, I'm in the movie. But what happened was on Halloween that week last year, the house sits in Sonoma County, which is like Napa Valley wine country. That whole area was on fire. They had these awful fires, and you probably remember those.
Yeah.
The town was literally burning down. And the Scream House sits right there. And so they had no electricity, roadblocks, airport closings, evacuations. And so 3 days before the event, we had to postpone it. We told everyone, I'm really sorry, but there's no way we can have this event because the town is on fire. So we rescheduled it for March 14th. So we had Halloween. I mean, we're talking about like halfway to Halloween. We're like almost halfway to Halloween in this gorgeous house, having this party on March 14th, all in costumes. People were wearing these incredible costumes. They were dressed like the characters, like Gail Weathers and Dewey and Kenny with the camera, all that. And it was really a lot of fun. And it was the last weekend before the country went on lockdown. So that was my last social event, was having a Halloween party in Stu's house. Scream. But if it had been a weekend later, we wouldn't have been able to have the party because everything was shut down. So but it was fun.
That's a pretty cool story. My last event before the country and me went down, I actually went down sick, and I was sick with the bug for a few weeks. But Katie was with me and Luke was with me. We went to a Friday the 13th 40th anniversary event on March 13th.
Yes.
I remember that. Remember that, Katie?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
We'll be sharing those pictures at our Friday the 13th celebration, but that was a lot of fun. They had a big walkthrough at the theater and everything, and that was a lot of fun. And all I remember thinking is, boy, I hope I'm not getting sick. That's all, because they had us all separated and everything.
Yep.
But needless to say, the next day I was down. So, but we'll share those pictures with you guys later. That was cool. That was cool. So, Anthony, so do you, besides the big event that you're having at Universal Studios, how is it like this event that you had just last week? You're doing those kind of events as well, like online and virtual events, and the thing you're having on May the 1st, tomorrow night, the black and white screen. That's such a cool thing that you're doing to connect fans while they're still at home. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're all at home, and we all still love horror movies, and we all don't want it to end. I think the problem is you can't leave your house, so it all has to be done online. But it's given me an idea. Like Lost River Drive-In is really was supposed to be physical events, live events, but it's given me this idea to explore about doing online things. And I've had a couple of people contact me that have had documentaries that haven't been seen that I've seen now that are really good. So we're thinking of doing a lot more of those types of events. Cool. And exclusive content, very niche, for the horror fan. And I've asked a bunch of my friends, I'm like, do you have anything that like Danielle Harris? I made a movie with Danielle.
Oh, wait. Oh. That's our next. I want to go into a little bit deeper with that, because I was able to check that out, and that's kind of an exciting thing to talk about. But first, I want everybody to watch as we remove the lid of the pumpkin.
Yay!
Hey.
Oh, that's the biggest pumpkin I have ever dug into. And I'm going to keep on digging. But this is kind of cool. Anthony, he was able to partner up with Danielle Harris. If you can tell us, well, most people watching the show know who she is, but if you can give us a little bit of a rundown and then kind of tell us what you're about to say.
Yeah, Danielle Harris is the little girl in Halloween 4 and Halloween 5. So remember, he's the niece. She's Michael's niece that he's chasing. And then she was in Rob Zombie's 2 Halloween movies. So she played different characters in the same universe. We're going back, Ben, to your whole thing about pick your storyline. But she's a Scream Queen. She's been in a lot of stuff. She's been in the Hatchet movies. She was in Urban Legend. And, Danielle's just a famous Scream Queen. So I met Danielle when I did my Halloween documentary, and we kept in touch. And so I had this idea to make a movie directed by Scream Queens. They're usually the ones that get killed in movies, and Danielle wanted to direct. And so we made a movie called Madison, which is like a 17, 18-minute short. And we filmed it at this really beautiful house up in Acton over 5 nights. And it's a story about a woman who's, she's sitting at home and she's waiting for her boyfriend to come home, and he's not coming home. And these weird sort of things start happening around the house. There's knocks at the door, and she's put in danger, and she kind of freaks out. And it was a very tight little story, and Danielle loved the script, and I co-wrote the script. And yeah, we made this really fun movie. But the thing was that no one ever saw it because we never completed the film.
Aww.
So no one ever saw it. So that's what prompted the whole Dr. Dementia's week-long slash-a-thon. I was like, I texted her. I said, hey, you know, no one has seen this movie. Everyone's on lockdown. Maybe it's time to show Madison to the world. And, you know, it is, you know, people love Danielle. And so, and she goes, sure, fine. So I went and dug the hard drive out and digitized it. And then I was like, hey, I've got all this other stuff as well. And so we created that week-long kind of thing. I've had a lot of people email me and saying, oh, I missed it. Which I hate when I hear that, because I'm like, how could you have missed it? I advertised it everywhere. But I might just rerun it again at some point. You know,
I was one of the people who texted him and said, I missed it.
It's like, you missed it. But yeah,
I did get a chance to watch Madison. I watched all but like the last 5 minutes, so don't talk about it yet. So I don't want to really get into the movie.
No, I don't want to give anything away. No, I want people.
No, but it was really, really well done. And the lead character, what's that, like the actress?
Her name is Dana DeRay, and I love her. When you see this movie, you guys hopefully eventually you see it. She plays Madison perfectly, and you know, I'm really picky. You know, like I in my mind, I'm like, we're never gonna find the right Madison. We're never gonna, you know, and but we did, and she was. So, and she was Danielle's friend. So Danielle said, oh, I want my friend Dana to play this. And I'm like, oh God, you know, and she was so right. And Danielle was amazing to work with. Just, it was a great experience. So I was really happy people were able to finally see it.
I really loved the scene in the police station. That one was so funny. It's so well done with the other lady. I really love that scene.
Yeah, there's 2 other Halloween actors in it. There's Kathleen Kinmont, who was in Halloween 4. She's the one that says, fuck off, Wade, to that guy. And JC Brandy, who played, JC Brandy replaced Danielle Harris in Halloween 6.
Oh, yeah.
Danielle was supposed to be in that movie, and then if you went to go see it, you're like, wait, why is Jamie Lloyd being played by not Danielle Harris? But JC Brandy is in it as well, so it's a little Halloween fun in there as well.
That's awesome. So let's open up the discussion a little bit. Did somebody else have a question before we moved on?
I had a question real quick.
Yeah.
It's not related to the short film, but in general about the events that you do and plan. Is there any any horror film or classic that you haven't done an event for that you would like absolutely just dream of doing an event for?
Well, that's good.
That's a good question. Yeah, there's a similar to the Scream house, the movie Black Christmas. There's a gorgeous house that Olivia Hussey is in this movie. Margot Kidder is in this movie, and they play these sorority. It's a sorority house, and it's this big, gorgeous, beautiful house. And Black Christmas is definitely in my top 3 favorite horror movies, and it's up.
The first one or the remake?
Oh gosh, the first one.
Yeah, of course.
There's been 2 remakes.
The remake.
Yeah,
He means the original. That's what I'm
The
saying.
original. Thank you, Kate.
Yeah,
Not the first.
Yeah.
And so I would love to do what we did for Scream at that house. It's just such a beautiful house, and the whole movie takes place there. And the killer is like, if you haven't seen it, they don't hide the fact that you see it opens with this guy through his POV, and he's crawling up the side of this house, off this trellis on the side of a house, and he crawls into the attic, and he starts calling the co-eds that live there, and the phone calls are just horrific. They're vulgar and obscene, and all these girls gather around and they're listening to this. She's holding the phone and everyone's listening to this horrific call. And people start dying. And it sounds like really that's the movie, but it's directed by Bob Clark, and Bob Clark directed A Christmas Story, the comedy A Christmas Story. and he made this movie, and it is so scary. I mean, it is super scary, and you hardly, and you hardly see the killer. In fact, you don't see him. Yeah. And yet he terrorizes you. So I would highly recommend you see.
And he made Porky's so he could make A Christmas Story. So did that come before Porky's even?
Yeah, I did. It did, definitely, because Black Christmas was 1974. Right. It was 4 years before Halloween, which is noteworthy because it could have been what Halloween was. I think it was a Canadian film. It had a different title when they first released it, which I can't believe I'm remembering right now. But yeah, I mean, but it's absolutely terrifying. It really is. And
I think it's also because people were more willing to accept death and destruction on Halloween than they were on Christmas.
Yeah.
But
Halloween was more fun too. There's a lot more fun in it. Black Christmas Black Christmas has some really funny moments. There's like the woman that runs the house and oversees the women, like she's this lush and she's hiding alcohol in all the toilets. Like she'll go in the bathroom and pick the thing up and pull out a bottle, and there's a lot of those moments. But what they really go for it, and it's much darker. But the Christmas setting, the whole idea that it's taking place around Christmas, and this guy you piece together because he's talking about Agnes and Billy, and it's just like, what the fuck? And he's a true maniac, and no one knows he's upstairs. It's awesome.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I actually just saw that film for the first time last year, and I was like getting really into it. I read that Margot Kidder actually had like no confidence in the movie while they were making it. She didn't think it was going to be like a hit, and she didn't do much press for it. And now that it has this big cult following, I just know that in recent years she's always been like, wow, I'm so surprised like that this has become what it is now. But when it was coming out, I think that was a reason why a lot of people didn't see it, just because it was unlike anything that really come out before, especially when it's like a horror movie involving Christmas.
I gotta tell you, that's the first time I've heard that. I had no idea about that.
She's like embraced it since, but it's an interesting track record for the movie.
It's interesting. It's like I can see it now and go, oh, that was not that she had no foresight, whatever. But think about it. Those when you watch the movie, those phone calls are like, I would be thinking as an actor, there's no way this movie's going to get distributed with what he's saying. And back in like 1974, it was so obscene, and so she probably was like, what did I get into? But yeah, well, hey, who knows? And I think that's the beauty of horror movies too. Sometimes you don't know,
Well, she went on to star in one of my favorite horror movies of all time, Amityville Horror, later that decade.
Yeah.
So I loved it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Anthony, we are kind of having to look at our clock here. Are you working on any video projects lately, or anything that you have worked on lately, or anything coming up? Because you've made quite a name with being very involved with documentaries, documenting all kinds of different film series.
Yeah, I'm doing a new documentary. New. Actually, I've been working on it for a year on the Paranormal Activity movies. There's been 6 of them. And they announced the 7th one, and they're developing it all this year. And it's supposed to come out next year. And we've done all of our interviews. We interviewed everyone from the series except for 2 people, which we would have been done by now. But those are done, and so that's our next one, is to tell the story of Paranormal Activity. The reason I thought it was my friend Nate is a co-producer on the project, Nate Reagan, and he texted me one night and said, let's do a documentary on Paranormal Activity. And I was like, they're probably so well documented. The thing about all these horror movies, every time you pick up a DVD, like I've got Halloween 2 here, and it's like the bonus features on the back are like endless. So I assumed that all the Paranormal Activity movies had, commentaries and bonus features. And Nate said to me, there's nothing, zip, zilch, nothing. So I was like, that can't be right. 6 movies and there's no bonus features. And he said, nothing. So that's why I'm doing it. For the first time, everyone in the series is talking about how they make these movies. Paramount, we interviewed everyone at Paramount, where it's a co-production with Paramount. And they talked about this insane way that they make these movies. I mean, when you think about the Paranormal Activity movies, they aren't really about anything because they're surveillance footage. It's surveillance footage. And people come walk, and this frames, there's always static shots. People come walking in and walking out. There's no story. So but yet they've made 6 movies with no story. So they've implied things here and there, and they take a year to make some, and they shoot movie after movie. One person said for like Paranormal Activity 5, they were like, or Paranormal Activity 6, they're like, we shot 9 movies. They threw out 8 of them. And then the nature of the way they make the movie is they just spitball, they riff. And the director shows up and says, okay, today we're gonna put the fan over here, a dog's gonna bark, and the cabinet's gonna open. And we're gonna build a scene around that. And then they spend a week doing that, and then they watch it, they throw it out and go, man, we don't like us, try something else. And so I'm like, my mind is exploding because I'm going, wait, this is a studio. The last thing, every studio doesn't do that when they make a movie. They try to make the budget as small as possible. They shave the days down. And for Paranormal Activity, it's the complete opposite. It's excessive, expensive, and it's fascinating. And so there's a real story there. There's a real story there, and it's been fun, and I'm doing that. I'm working on that.
Does anyone have any question? I do have one question, and then I'll open up the floor. My question is, if I'm not punished for it, is there any? Do you have any idea when that documentary will be ready and coming out? That's not my question.
Well, the good thing is that the good thing is that our interviews are done. So with the exception of 2, and we can slot them in at the end. But yeah, we're hoping to complete it sometime this year. And Paramount wants to leverage the documentary to re-engage fans to watch the new movie, and it's a great position to be in as a documentarian. It justifies your project, so that's the plan for it.
Can you give us? Go ahead, Brian. Go.
Oh, sorry, I had a quick question just about Blumhouse does. I think they've done the majority of the Paranormal Activity films, if not all of them.
They've done all of them.
All of them. And like what you were saying earlier about coming, I guess, on set and having just a bunch of ideas, almost spitballing, that seems to fit with their model, at least with horror movies, in that they'll make just like 12 really low budget films, and if one is just like a massive success, it kind of fits or pays off the rest just because of how little they're spending on a lot of these films. I'm curious, like, do you learn any insight, particularly with these Paranormal Activity movies? Was that a building block for their entire format? Because I feel like they were some of the first films that were really starting to establish that model for them.
Yeah, well, like Oren Peli, who directed the whole first movie, he shot that movie, I think, in a week in his own home, and had no interference from a studio.
My gosh.
Right. And he spent 6 months auditioning people. Now, this is a guy who was not a filmmaker. I think he was a statistician or something. He was not a filmmaker. Key point. And then his girlfriend says, I think his girlfriend gave him the story idea. It was like, I think something's going on. And he was like, oh, that'd be a great movie. And then he sets out to make this movie. And then he casts Katie Featherston and Mika Sloat. But he waited 6 months. He auditioned hundreds of people. And I was like, that alone to me, I mean, he put the movie first. Wow. and waited until he had 2 actors that had amazing chemistry. But he did it. He did that movie in a week for like $15,000. It made $193 million. That's not what the studios did with any of the other films. It's like they liked the results, but thought they could get to it in a different way. And as the films were being made, they were veering away from what he did, and they found value in sort of the excessive procedure of getting all this footage. There are locations that they use that they shot weeks in that they never made into the movie. It's just, if you're a filmmaker, you're going to want to see this documentary because you're going to be like, that's crazy.
I mean, that business model is so fascinating. I sometimes feel like it opens people's eyes when they hear that statistic, but they also think like, oh, well, it might be just a cheap way to make a quick movie. But no, I mean, I really do think when you hear that they spend that much time like getting the actors, getting the chemistry, it's just really smart filmmaking.
Yeah, I'm not going to say who it was, but one of our interviewees said they kind of left the business after that because they were like, that was so wasteful. I don't even want to specify gender, but they were like literally going, I was so disgusted by it. But I thought it more.
That's what I was going to ask him. Hey, Anthony, if you could give us one little intriguing tease to make us want to see this documentary when it comes out, what would it be? What would be like a little nugget?
Oh God, there's a bunch. Do you guys remember the Demand It campaign? I don't know if you remember that, but when Paranormal Activity came out, there was a company called Demand It, and it was like, well, if you want to see the movie, you have to demand it in your city.
Yep.
And so they did this with a whole bunch of movies. And Paranormal Activity really broke through with that, because when they distributed the movie, they basically they advertised all over the internet, and they're like, the only way you're going to get to see Paranormal Activity is if you go to our website and demand it. Well, they got so many people. But all I've heard is that the Demand It campaign was this genius campaign that Paramount's marketing group came up with to advertise this movie. And I've heard another side to that story, that it wasn't this genius thing. It was almost like I don't want to say this, but it was almost like they didn't have faith in the movie. And so they were like, well, we'll only do it if you demand it. But Jason Blum, it was pretty genius. We had a long discussion with him, and he's where he is today because he's a great producer, and he navigated all those waters amazingly well. Also, Steven Spielberg was key. He's our last interview. We're trying to get him to do an interview. He was key to getting this movie made as well, because somebody at the company, I think her name was Ashley Brooks, we interviewed her, she gave him the DVD and said, you have to watch this. So he takes it home, he watches this movie, and then right after he watched it, he got locked out of his bedroom where he was watching the movie. And he's like, he said, my bedroom door never locked before. And so he had to break into his own bedroom, and then he went back to put it in a plastic bag and threw it on Ashley's desk, and he was like, get this shit away from me. Change the ending and we'll release it, or something like that. But he got locked out of his bedroom after.
This was Steven Spielberg?
Steven Spielberg, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I just thought
That's
that was
fantastic.
Funny. Oh, and by the way, when one other thing that happened, not really to me, but when we went to talk to Paramount about doing this, we had this amazing meeting, and my partner in this is Rachel Bolofsky, who runs Screamfest, and she discovered Paranormal Activity. So it was her festival that Oren submitted his video to. Everyone else passed on it, and she saw it, and so she's my business partner. She's a lovely friend. So Rachel and I go to this meeting, and then when we left, we got home, and somebody that was in the meeting, one of the women that was in the meeting, emailed us and said, you're not going to believe this. Right after our meeting, I went back to my office, I opened my door, and my Paranormal Activity poster fell off the wall, and the glass shattered. And she's like, that poster is like bolted to the wall. And so we thought that was cool, too. Of course, we're attributing it to a ghost, but
all right.
I love those stories.
I can't wait to see this documentary. We do kind of have to come to the end of the show, guys, but we're going to end with this one question. Round the horn, quick, short answer. We'll end with Anthony. We'll start with Katie. How do you, let's let this happen.
How do we what, Jim? How do we what?
What's your idea of how Halloween's going to occur this year? What is it going to be like? What is your hope? Katie, let's go.
I think it'll be different, but I think it'll be something that makes everybody happy that they can do something and go out again, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Ben, what do you think?
I'm hoping that we're going to be, it's definitely going to be different. I think there's still going to be a lot of things in place that are going to be social distancing and that sort of thing, but I'm hoping we're going to be on an upslope by then. That is, another 6 months away. So hopefully we'll be on an upswing by then, but I don't know. It's definitely going to be different.
Oh, sorry. Cheeseman.
I think people will be wearing lots of masks during Halloween. There'll be lots of masks being worn during Halloween is my prediction.
Yeah.
More than ever.
Yep.
Record-breaking masks.
What do you think, Anthony?
I think the same thing. I posted something on Facebook the other day that said, should I wear my Scream mask grocery shopping? Because I'm like, it's probably a better mask than that little, and mixed results. I had a lot of people going, yeah, go for it. And then I had responsible, people going, don't scare people. But yeah, I think exactly what Luke just said is everyone's going to have a lot of fun with that. But I also agree with Ben that we're going to be on an upslope too. I really hope so.
I do too. I feel like we passed the crest. We just have to do what it takes. Ryan, what do you think?
I think we need to get out of here. You guys can find me at Ryan Nilsson on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm really curious where we can find everyone else. Ben Kliewer, how about you, man?
Hey, everybody. My name is Ben Kliewer. You can find me on all social media at BenKliewer. And remember, people always ask me, what are you drinking out of that red cup? Well, it's because whenever Ben Kliewer shows up, it's always a party.
Hey.
I'm Katie, aka The Final Girl. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at KT_Christine or on other shows on AfterBuzz Network.
Cheeseman.
And I'm Cheeseman on the Couch. You can find me on thescareguy.com. And you can also find me on Twitter at CheeseOnCouch.
Anthony, where can we find you?
Just go to my website. It's massimedia.net. You can find all my info there.
And we'll have it posted on our website. You can find me at theconguy.com, also at thescareguy.com. And I will be carving this pumpkin until I'm done. Be checking our social media in the next couple of days to see how this turns out. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Anthony, thank you so much.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.